Alright, good morning everyone. We are here with a break 274. There we go. Bit bright over there. There we go, it's a bit better. Alright, so how are we? Our team list this morning: Broncos, Sean May; Raiders, Oz; Bulldogs, Trent; Sharks, Trent; Dolphins, Darren; Titans, Trent; Manly, Darren; Storm, Peter; Knights, Darren; Cowboys, Sean; Eels, Peter; Panthers, Sean; Rabbitohs, Sean; Dragons, Roger; Roosters, Dean; Warriors, Sean; and Tigers, Darren. All right. We're going to get stuck straight into it, guys. Into the starters. Let's get these out. All right. Starting off with a gold, number 64, Saratoga Tukey for the Tigers. Bit spread out across the table, this one. I've said it a few times, even though this isn't my team or one of my favourite players, I think this is one of the best cards the way it turned out in the series. And that's the Jerome Hughes gold, number 60. In the copper, number 98, Jerome Luai for the Panthers. In the copper, number 155, Gale Broughton for the Broncos. In the silver, number 28, Anessa Biddle for the Sharks. Actually, yeah, I haven't looked at the Club Heroes as much. Obviously, we haven't done them in the breaks, and we've just, Dad did a big opening of them. So I haven't really played with them much. I do pick them out occasionally for the orders. And yes, I like the Club Heroes. I don't really have a favourite or anything, but after opening all the cards and packs, that Jerome Hughes gold has to be one of my favourite. Shante Aratu, number 48 for the Titans in the silver. Number 37 in the gold, David Fafita. In the copper, number 39, Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons. In the copper, number 74, Jason Taumalolo. Number 49 in the copper, Elsie Albert for the Eels. Number 126 in the copper, David Fafita. In the silver, number 15, Jerome Hughes for the Storm. Number 120 in the copper, Saratoga Tukey for the Tigers. In the gold, number 35, Racine McGregor for the Dragons. In the silver, number 139, Lachlan Ilias for the Rabbitohs. In the copper, 195 for the Broncos, Brendan Bakura. In the copper, number 51, Luke Keary for the Roosters. Alright, 3 starter packs left. In the copper, 157, Georgia Roach for the Knights. $29 in the silver, Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons. In the gold, number 58, Vanilla Blake for the Warriors. Alright, let's get these packets open. Rising Stars, Jada Taylor for the Sharks. Alex Johnston parallel for the Rabbitohs. We have our last break. Oh, sorry, no. Our last case break that we've been doing, like this one listed now, break 275. We've also listed a new smaller break with 4 hobby boxes, 1 priority box, 10 starter packs, and a bonus 21 traders box. It's a random team, and that's listed on the site. Now, Zahara Tamara, Women's NRL for the Raiders. Damien Cook, parallel for the Rabbitohs. We have our giveaway for the Elite 1 of 1 Maori All-Stars patch card. that finishes on the 26th or the 25th. Sorry guys, I can't remember off the top of my head. Sword and Shield Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Broncos parallel checklist. All that information can be found on the website and on the Facebook page and in the group. Rising Stars for the Cowboys. Chad Townsend parallel for the Cowboys. Season to remember, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Jacob Carraz parallel for the Bulldogs. Club Heroes, Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Mawaki Fotowaka parallel for the Titans. Rising Stars, Jonah Pezzett for the Storm. Ryan Madison parallel for the Eels. Reece Welsh parallel for the Broncos. Season to remember, Nick Meaney for the Storm. Dolphins parallel checklist. Women's NRL, Jessica Sturgis for the Roosters. Tohu Harris parallel for the Warriors. World in League, Lachlan Ilias for the Rabbitohs. Cameron McInnes parallel for the Sharks. World in League, Josh Alawai for Manly. Dylan Edwards parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Talon De Silva for the Tigers. James Tedesco parallel for the Roosters. Jake Trbojevic parallel for Manly. Club hero Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Cameron Munster parallel for Storm. Rising Stars, Thomas Hazelton for the Sharks. Jaden Sewer parallel for the Dragons. Season to remember, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Matthew Tomoko parallel for the Raiders. Sword and Shield, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Bulldogs parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Wirima Grieg for the Eels. Philip Semi parallel for the Titans. Women's NRL, Leanne Tafuga for the Tigers. Clint Gutherson parallel for the Eels. Season to remember, Luke Brooks for the Tigers. Jacob Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. World in League, Jerome Hughes for the Storm. Jalen between Zelezniak, parallel for the Warriors. Retirement, Sam Williams for the Raiders. Daniel Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Holly Dodd for the Raiders. Chance Nico Klokstad, parallel for the Warriors. Showcase, Sean Lane for the Eels. Felice Kafusi, parallel for the Dolphins. World in League, Shannon Muru for the Eels. Tavita Totola, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Rising Stars, Tane for the Warriors. Ezra Mam, parallel for the Broncos. Broncos looking forward to having him and Reynolds tonight. I think it's tonight, or at least. Matthew Feagai, season to remember for the Dragons. Tommy Dearden, parallel for the Cowboys. Nick Meaney, parallel for the Storm. World in League, Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons. Dragons parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Ella Costa for the Dragons. Jack Bird, parallel for the Dragons. Tonight, yeah. Sweet. Going up against your Trookies, Alex. Of course you would know. How do you think this is going to go down? Rematch. Reuben Cotter, showcase for the Cowboys. Sean Bloor, parallel for the Tigers. Kind of smash it. Retirements, Lachlan Coote for the Cowboys. What am I doing? Tommy Turbo, parallel for Manly. I was too worried about the next card. I forgot which card I had in my hand. Rising Stars, Ruby Ellis for the Eels. Dane Gagai, parallel for the Knights. I don't follow AFL at all. Pretty sure the two Sydney teams, Swannies and GWS, are playing tonight. So Terrell May, Rising Stars for the Roosters. Seriously Vitalikai, parallel for the Sharks. Season to remember, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Jaden Campbell, parallel for the Titans. Sword and Shield, Dave Fafita for the Titans. Jeremiah Nanai, parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Dream Buller for the Tigers. Adakar, parallel for the Bulldogs. Well, there's two reasons that if I'm going to follow anything, I'm going to follow them two teams. Georgia Hale, Women's NRL for the Titans. Mikal Ravalawa, parallel for the Dragons. And the Swannies that's the one and only AFL game I've ever been, so I don't remember who they played. It was when I was younger. My grandfather took me, they had some friends from England out, so we went and watched the game. Thomas Hazelton, Club Heroes for the Sharks. Regan Campbell-Gillard, parallel for the Eels. And GWS, because, you know, Western Sydney, where I was born and grew up. Home, Jacob Preston, Rising Stars for the Bulldogs. Storm Parallel Checklist. And being around there when they started, the fans were very passionate. Seasons to remember, Mackenzie Wiki for the Raiders. Lindsay Collins, parallel for the Roosters. Oh, I don't even know the songs. Shael for the Raiders, World in League. Hudson Young, parallel for the Raiders. We're almost finished through these packets. Rising Stars, Benjamin Lovett for the Rabbitohs. James Fisher-Harris, parallel for Panthers. Season to remember, Tyrone Munro for the Rabbitohs. Kieran Foran, parallel for the Titans. Rising Stars, Sienna Lafipu for the Titans. Cowboys, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Dean Madison for Manly. Jermaine Isako, parallel for the Dolphins. Alright, let's get these out of the way before I knock them over. Alright. Palami kick out, parallel for the Bulldogs. Well, they started well, didn't they, Alex? Like, I thought they was going to run all over them. And, yeah, nah. Panthers pushed back and just kept going. Nico Hines, Sword and Shield for the Sharks. Tyrell Sloan, parallel for the Dragons. But I mean, that's where Rabbitohs have been failing in the second half, I think, most of the time. Rising Stars, Sanua Taruva for Panthers. Junior Paulo, parallel for the Eels. Season to remember, Ewan Aiken for the Dolphins. Nelson Asofa Solomona, parallel for the Storm. Yeah, well, I was pretty much in bed, half watching it. Club Heroes, Tristan Saylor for the Broncos. Brendan Smith, parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Ryan Rivet for the Knights. Raiders, parallel checklist. Women's NRL, Georgia Roach for the Knights. Brian To'o, parallel for Panthers. World in League, Ewan Aiken for the Dolphins. Junior Tupou, parallel for the Tigers. I was watching a TV show. I don't know, you lost me there, sorry. Rising Stars, Ryan Couchman for the Dragons. Tolatoa Koala, parallel for Manly. Trying to get to the end of some season. Season to remember, Nathan Cleary for the Panthers. Nico Hines, parallel for the Sharks. World in League, Losana Lutu for the Tigers. Payne Huss, parallel for the Broncos. Rising Stars, Xavier Wilson for the Broncos. Isaiah Katoa, parallel for the Dolphins. Alright, last packet out of the starter packs. Women's NRL, Kennedy Sherrington for the Eels. Campbell Graham, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Alright, let's get these out of the way. We have our priority box. Move that to the side. And let's find out who the lucky winner of the case card is today. Aha, with the Raz wins spot. Number 7, David Clemmer for the Tigers. There we go. Alright, let's get these out. Alright. Have a feeling. What made you have that feel, Alex? Let's go. I swear the hobby packets open heaps easier than the retail. Rising Stars, Thomas Hazelton for the Sharks. Phoenix Crossland, parallel for the Knights. Season to remember, Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Jermaine Hopgood, parallel for the Eels. Oh, what gave you the feeling? What was the feeling? Ronaldo Mulatalo, showcase for the Sharks. Jesse Bromwich, parallel for the Dolphins. Women's NRL, Millie Boyle for the Roosters. Toby Sexton, parallel for the Bulldogs. Season to remember, Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. Tony Staggs, parallel for the Broncos. Yeah, right, okay. Called it yesterday. Rising Stars, Ryan Couchman for the Dragons. Big Tino, parallel for the Titans. Maybe we need you to come pick out the cases. Rising Stars, Talon De Silva for the Tigers. Latrell Mitchell, parallel for the Rabbitohs. I'm actually pretty sure it's happened a few times. Elliot Whitehead, Welding League for the Raiders. Scott Drinkwater, parallel for the Cowboys. Gold, parallel, Tamika Upton for the Knights, number 175. Rabbitohs, parallel checklist. Season to remember, Daly Cherry Evans for Manly. Jackson Hastings, parallel for Knights. Rising Stars, Will Warbrick for the Storm. Ryan Madison, parallel for the Eels. Wellington League, Braden Hemlin, Yuli for the Sharks. Jacob Carraz, parallel for the Bulldogs. Saratoga Tuki, Club Heroes for the Tigers. Hammer Fido, parallel for the Dolphins. Season to remember, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Milwaukee Photo Waka, parallel for the Titans. Rising Stars, Ryan Rivet for the Knights. Patrick Carrigan, parallel for the Broncos. Rising Stars, Robert Derby for the Cowboys. Chad Townsend, parallel for the Cowboys. World in League, Holly Dodd for the Raiders. Damien Cook, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Running Machines, Isabel Kelly for the Roosters, number 98. Broncos Parallel Checklist. Season to remember, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Daly Cherry Evans, parallel for Manly. Rising Stars, Rumi Greg for the Eels. John Bateman, parallel for the Tigers. Kalen Ponga, gold parallel for the Knights, number 10. Liam Martin, parallel for the Panthers. World in League, Sanua Taruva for Panthers. Brighton Nakora, parallel for the Sharks. Rising Stars, Tane for the Warriors. Daniel Tupou, parallel for the Roosters. Club Heroes, Wiramu Greig for the Eels. Corey Horsburgh, parallel for the Raiders. Quincy Dodd, Women's NRL for the Sharks. Warriors, parallel checklist. Sword and Shield, Nat Butcher for the Roosters. Harry Grant, parallel for the Storm. Rising Stars, Holly Dodd for the Raiders. Zach Lomax, parallel for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Sienna Lafipu for the Titans. Ruben Garrick, parallel for Manly. Nick Meaney, season to remember for the Storm. Nathan Cleary, parallel for Panthers. World in League, Abigail Roach for the Knights. David Clemmer, parallel for the Tigers. Sword and Shield, Jareem Buller for the Tigers. Joey Manu, parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Joseph Tarpanay, parallel for the Raiders. Sword and Shield team for the Warriors. Sharks, parallel checklist. Women's NRL, Lauren Brown for the Titans. Nick Meaney, parallel for the Storm. Rising Stars, Sanua Taruva for Panthers. Hayden Finor Blake parallel for the Warriors. Showcase Dylan Edwards for Panthers. And Dragons parallel checklist to finish it off. That's box 1, guys. Tuck that in there and get into box number 2. Rising Stars, Kayla Romniak for the Knights, Jack Bird parallel for the Dragons. Retirement, James Tarmo for the Tigers. Rising Stars, Arthur Stephen for the Eels. Dane Gagai parallel for the Knights. Women's NRL, Vitalina Nicole for the Cowboys. Marcus Sivo parallel for the Eels. Club Heroes, Samai Matorfa for the Raiders. Tohu Harris parallel for the Warriors. Season to remember, Mia Wood for the Roosters. Cameron McInnes parallel for the Sharks. Rising Stars, Peter Holler for the Raiders. Stefano Yutkamanu parallel for the Tigers. Showcase Tolator Koala for Manly. Max King parallel for the Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Keanu Kinney for the Titans. Titans parallel checklist. Sword and Shield team for the Sharks. Ben Voyage parallel for Manly. World in League, Felice Kafusi for Dolphins. Jerome Luai parallel for Panthers. World in League, Brendan Wakeham for the Tigers. Murray Talagi parallel for Cowboys. Season to remember, Kieran Foran for the Titans. Cody Walker parallel for the Rabbitohs. Rising Stars, Alexis Tonne for the Dragons. Jared Herrera Hargraves parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Blake Moser for the Broncos. Selwyn Cobbo parallel for the Broncos. Season to remember, Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Sebastian Chris, parallel for the Raiders. World in League, Dallin Zalesniak for the Warriors. The Lance to wear, parallel for the Dolphins. Initials, Abby Church for the Eels, number 119. Parallel, Greg Marzu for the Knights. Sword and Shield, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Xavier Coates, parallel for the Storm. Rising Stars, Junior Tupou for the Tigers. Storm parallel checklist. Showcase, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Dallin Zalesniak, parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Atessa Poole for the Roosters. Sifa Talakai, parallel for the Sharks. Women's NRL, Holly Dodd for the Raiders. Sean Bloor, parallel for the Tigers. Rising Stars, Raymond Vega for Manly. Jermaine Isako, parallel for the Dolphins. Club Heroes, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. And Kale Ravalawa, parallel for the Dragons. Sword and Shield, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Regan Campbell Gillard, parallel for the Eels. World in League, Hamoli Olaka-Atu for Manly. Tommy Turbo, parallel for Manly. Rising Stars, Valance to wear for the Dolphins. Addo Carr, parallel for the Bulldogs. Season to remember, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Jaden Campbell, parallel for the Titans. Season to remember, Mackenzie Wiki for the Raiders. Jacob Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Tyrone Munro for the Rabbitohs. James Fisher-Harris, parallel for Panthers. Women's NRL, Margot Avella for the Dragons. Jeremiah Nanai, parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Andy Robinson for the Sharks. Oh, Alex, Burbank Cards is the video I was talking about last time we're live. Alex Johnston, parallel for the Rabbitohs. I've seen quite a few people be in there. But yeah, there's one where they take out the back of their like e-commerce area. Season to remember, Luke Brooks for the Tigers. Lindsay Collins, parallel for the Roosters. World in League, Elsie Albert for the Eels. Reece Welsh, parallel for the Broncos. I didn't know that. Renato Militalo, gold parallel for the Sharks, number 45. Yeah, they got rows, and the rows are quite tall. Hudson Young, parallel for the Raiders. Yeah, look, I understand. That's part of the reason, and it's hard to calculate as well. That's part of the reason why we don't ship to America and places, because working out the shipping can be quite difficult. Gold parallel, Jocelyn Keller for the Roosters, number 154. Dolphins parallel checklist. And that's the end of box number 2, guys. Alright, here we go. Straight in to the next one. Gold parallel, Philip Semi for the Titans, number 56. Bulldogs parallel checklist. Season to remember, Nathan Cleary for the Panthers. Jake Trbojevic, parallel for Manly. Rising Stars, Destiny Brill for the Broncos. Philip Semi, parallel for Titans. Showcase Blake Laurie for the Dragons. Dylan Edwards, parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Tom Jenkins for Panthers. James Tedesco, parallel for the Roosters. Club Heroes, Tanua Taruva for the Panthers. Tommy Dearden, parallel for the Cowboys. Sword and Shield, Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons. Tavita Totola, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Rising Stars, Francesca Goldthorpe for the Cowboys. Ezra Mann, parallel for the Broncos. Emily Curtin, Women's NRL for the Tigers. Matthew Tomoko, parallel for the Raiders. Yeah. Ruben Garrick, season to remember for Manly. Felice Kafusi, parallel for the Dolphins. Tiana Penatani, Women's NRL for the Sharks. Daniel Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Tigers, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Sua Wong for the Roosters. Chance Nico Klokstad, parallel for the Warriors. World in League, Gale Broughton for the Broncos. Cameron Munster, parallel for the Storm. World in League, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Nico Hines, parallel for the Sharks. I think I've missed most of the World in League parallel cards, guys. I apologise for that. If I have, Mackenzie Wheel, gold parallel for the Cowboys, number 140. Parallel for the Tigers, Junior Tupou. Rising Stars, Tom Weaver for the Titans. Jaden Sewer, parallel for the Dragons. Season to remember, Matthew Feagai for the Dragons. Clint Gufferson, parallel for the Eels. Sword and Shield, Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. Kieran Foran, parallel for the Titans. Rising Stars, Tallis Duncan for the Rabbitohs. Tolator Koala, parallel for Manly. Club Heroes, Payne Huss for the Broncos. Brian To'o, parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins. Cowboys parallel checklist. Season to remember, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Brendan Smith, parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Carl Olapo for Bulldogs. Raiders parallel checklist. Women's NRL, Corbin Baxter for the Roosters. Campbell Graham, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Showcase, Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Payne Huss, parallel for the Broncos. Rising Stars, Anessa Biddle for the Sharks. Isaiah Katoa, parallel for the Dolphins. Sword and Shield team for the Bulldogs. Nelson Asafa Solomona, parallel for the Storm. World in League, Holly Dodd for the Raiders. Bradman Best, parallel for the Knights. Season to remember, Hudson Young for the Raiders. Sean Johnson, parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Cassie Hiku for the Eels. Ronaldo Molitalo, parallel for the Sharks. Jerome Luai, World in League for Panthers. Tyrell Sloan, parallel for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Eliza Salata for the Tigers. Junior Paulo, parallel for the Eels. 3 packets left for box number 3. World in League, Maya Hill Moana for the Roosters. Adam Dewey, parallel for the Tigers. Predictor, number 129 for the Tigers. There you go, Tigers not doing too bad at all. Knights. Molly Olika R2, parallel for Manly. Retirement, Andrew McCulloch for the Dragons. Season to remember, Kira Dibb for the Cowboys. Palami Kickout, parallel for the Bulldogs. Alright. In the predictors in the boxes overall. That's the first one in this break. You get 2 per case. We've pulled a couple out of the mini starter packs. And of course, you obviously get 2 in a priority case as well. So it just depends on the box. Showcase a group card, so that's randomized between all 17 spots. Dream Buller, parallel for the Tigers. Rising Stars for the Cowboys. Manly, parallel checklist. Season to remember, Dominic Young for the Knights. Cameron Murray, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Women's NRL, Azali Faye for the Eels. Adam Reynolds, parallel for the Broncos. Season to remember, Mahalia Murphy for the Eels. Blake Brayley parallel for the Sharks. Rising Stars, Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Jeremy Marshall King parallel for Dolphins. Rising Stars, Jonah Pezzett for the Storm. Tamir Martin parallel for Warriors. World in League, Saitili Tupanua for the Roosters. Knights parallel checklist. Gold parallel, Julia Ronson for the Broncos, number 26. Wade Egan parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Jada Taylor for the Sharks. Isaac Tago parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Trey Mooney for the Raiders. Jai Arrow parallel for the Rabbitohs. Lord in League, Adam Fanua-Blake for the Warriors. Kurt Capewell parallel for the Broncos. Club Heroes, Sua Wong for the Roosters. Apasai Coruscant parallel for Tigers. Season to remember, Ewan Aiken for the Dolphins. Tom Gilbert parallel for the Dolphins. Rising Stars, Dream Buller for the Tigers. Jesse Ramian parallel for the Sharks. Rising Stars, Ella Costa for the Dragons. Kalen Ponga parallel for the Knights. World in League, Braden Hamlin Yuli for the Sharks. Jackson Ford parallel for the Warriors. White Authentic, Jacob Little for the Dragons, number 12. William Kennedy parallel for the Sharks. Season to remember, Dallin Latine Zalesniak for the Warriors. Christian Welsh parallel for the Storm. Gold parallel, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs, number 37. Blake Brayley parallel for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Dean Madison for Manly. Big Papa parallel for the Raiders. Rising Stars, Terrell May for the Roosters. Eels Parallel Checklist. World in League, Georgia Hale for the Titans. Victor Radley Parallel for the Roosters. Club Heroes, Daly Cherry Evans for Manly. Jacob Preston Parallel for the Bulldogs. Sword and Shield, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Alifiana Khan Piera Parallel for the Titans. Women's NRL, Garrett Broughton for the Broncos. Isaiah Yeo Parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Benjamin Lovett for the Rabbitohs. Ruben Cotter Parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Ruby Ellis for the Eels. Jerome Hughes Parallel for Storm. World in League, April for the Cowboys. Jamal Fogarty Parallel for the Raiders. Season to remember, Tyrone Munro for the Rabbitohs. Jack DeBellin Parallel for the Dragons. Sword and Shield, Addo Carr for the Bulldogs. Mitchell Moses Parallel for the Eels. Sword and Shield team for the Rabbitohs. Roosters Parallel Checklist. Rising Stars, Ronald Volkman for the Warriors. Matt Burton Parallel for the Bulldogs. Women's NRL, Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. David Fafita Parallel for the Titans. Showcase Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. Reece Robson Parallel for the Cowboys. Season to remember, Selwyn Cobbo for the Broncos. Lachlan Croker Parallel for Manly. Alright, another box done and dusted. Rising Stars, Sandon Smith for the Roosters. Dane Gagai Parallel for the Knights. Women's NRL, Rachel Pearson for the Eels. Tohu Harris Parallel for the Warriors. Showcase Sean Lane for the Eels. Cameron McInnes parallel for the Sharks. Rising Stars, Jada Ferguson for the Broncos. Storm parallel checklist. Sword and Shield, Sean Johnson for the Warriors. Dolphins parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Blake Wilson for the Bulldogs. Stefano Utkamani parallel for the Tigers. World in League, Corbin Baxter for the Roosters. Ben Jabovic parallel for Manly. Tyrone Munro, Club Heroes for the Rabbitohs. Everyone has been pretty good so far. Yeah, as far as the rugby league season goes, overall it's been interesting. Mikhail Ravalawa parallel for the Dragons. Not if you're South. Well, I mean, that's up for argument. Losing a coach and all the turmoil. Learns to wear, season to remember for the Dolphins. Reece Welsh parallel for the Broncos. Season to remember, Isaiah Tass for the Rabbitohs. Regan Campbell-Gillard parallel for the Eels. Season to remember, Tyrone Peachy for Panthers. Jerome Luai parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Talon Silva for the Tigers. Jared Hargraves parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Zach Labert for the Cowboys. Alex Johnston parallel for the Rabbitohs. Rising Stars, Jack Howarth for Storm. Addo Carr parallel for Bulldogs. World in League, parallel Sanua Taruva for the Panthers. Sebastian Chris parallel for the Raiders. Sword and Shield team for the Titans. Jaden Campbell parallel for the Titans. Yeah, don't know. Round 2, the only round we've had with any perfect round. I thought my round was over last night. But yeah, Panthers turned it around and just kept going. So Ashley Quinlan, Black Authentics for the Raiders, number 4. Xavier Coates, parallel for the Storm. World in League, David Fafita for the Titans. Jeremiah Nanai, parallel for the Cowboys. Season to remember, Bradman Best for the Knights. Damien Cook, parallel for Rabbitohs. Showcase Nat Butcher for the Roosters. Dragons parallel checklist. Tony Stagg, gold parallel for the Broncos. Number 8. Broncos parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Ali for the Warriors. Ryan Madison, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Toby Couchman for the Dragons. Jermaine Isako, parallel for the Dolphins. Yeah, I've been tipping Eels, even though I've thought better. Club Heroes, Blake Laurie for the Dragons. Jacob Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Brendan Hands for the Eels. Joseph Tarpanay, parallel for the Raiders. Sword and Shield, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Dallin Watine Zelezniak, parallel for the Warriors. Women's NRL, Shania Power for the Cowboys. Jacob Carraz, parallel for the Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Thomas Cant for the Knights. CSF Talakai, parallel for the Sharks. Season to remember, Sean Johnson for the Warriors. Nick Meaney, parallel for the Storm. Season to remember, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Sean Bloor, parallel for the Tigers. Women's NRL, Ali Brigginshaw for the Broncos. Tommy Turbo, parallel for Manly. World in League, Ewan Aiken for the Dolphins. Mawaki Fotuaika, parallel for the Titans. Rising Stars, Shante for the Titans. James Fisher-Harris, parallel for Panthers. World in League, Lasana Lutu for the Tigers. Lindsay Collins, parallel for the Roosters. Two packets left. Gold parallel, Avania Elite for the Titans, number 5. Hudson Young parallel for the Raiders. Rising Stars, Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Chad Townsend parallel for the Cowboys. And that's another box down. Rising Stars, Connor Mulhayson for the Dragons. Will Warbrick parallel for the Storm. Season to remember, Luke Keary for the Roosters. Warriors parallel checklist. Showcase Jerome Hughes for the Storm. Jordan Rapiner parallel for the Raiders. Women's NRL, Sophie Hollyman for the Raiders. Brighton Nakora parallel for the Sharks. Season to remember, Patil Vet Welsh for the Tigers. Luke Keary parallel for the Roosters. Retirement, Brad Takarangi for the Eels. Brendan Bakura, Rising Stars for the Broncos. John Bateman, parallel for the Tigers. Rising Stars, Mona Lisa Soliola for the Raiders. Panthers parallel checklist. Welding League, Anessa Biddle for the Sharks. Daly Cherry Evans parallel for Manly. Gold parallel, Samaima Taufa for the Raiders, number 42. Liam Martin, parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Mason Teague for the Dolphins. Adam Fanua Blake, parallel for the Warriors. Season to remember, Blake Wilson for the Bulldogs. Harry Grant, parallel for Storm. Shannon Muru, Welding League for the Eels. Sharks parallel checklist. Season to remember, Marcus Sivo for the Eels. David Clemmer, parallel for the Tigers. Club Heroes, Will Warbrick for Storm. Corey Horsburgh, parallel for the Raiders. Rising Stars, Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. Ruben Garrick, parallel for Manly. Rising Stars, Tiana Smith for the Cowboys. Daniel Tupou, parallel for the Roosters. World in League, parallel, Jason Taumalolo for the Cowboys. Nathan Cleary, parallel for Panthers. Running Machines, Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons, number 43. Joey Manu, parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Reid Marnie, parallel for Bulldogs. Nico Hines, season to remember for the Sharks. Alexander Brimson, parallel for the Titans. Gold parallel, Storm Checklist, number 49. Jason Taumalolo, parallel for the Cowboys. World in League, Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. Bryce Cartwright, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Lindsay Smith for the Panthers. Latrell Mitchell, parallel for Rabbitohs. Emma Manzelman, Club Heroes for the Cowboys. Katoni Staggs, parallel for the Broncos. Emily Bass, World in Women's NRL for the Titans. Ben Hunt, parallel for the Dragons. Sword and Shield, Harry Grant for Storm. Jesse Bromwich, parallel for Dolphins. We should have them on the website, but when it comes to base cards, you're best off buying a box or an album and base set. If that's all you're planning on chasing, and if you're not in a rush, we have a lot of the insert series made up into full sets that can be purchased as sets rather than individuals. So it depends on how far you want to collect, but I highly recommend having a look at that as well. Rising Stars, Alefiana Campiera for the Titans. And once again, if you're looking for the sets but they're not in stock, add them to your wish list. We're always breaking and filling stock up individual cards and sets. So Phoenix Crossland, parallel for the Knights. Season to remember, Alafiana Kampi Era for Titans. Yeah, it has. Gold Coast Trading Cards.net. Scott Drinkwater, parallel for the Cowboys. If you don't know the website, yeah, go and have a look on there. Plenty of information. Check out the FAQ page. Description for 24 traders. So if you go to the category and scroll all the way down, it lists all the different inserts, what they're available in. So if they're only available in the titanium or in the priority case card, whatever it happens to be, it's all there. Checklists are downloadable on the website. So yeah, and the link should be in the description as well for the video. Make it nice and easy. Rising Stars, Hopawate for the Roosters. Big Tino, parallel for the Titans. World in League, Josh Alloy for Manly. Toby Sexton, parallel for the Bulldogs. Sword and Shield, Reese Robson for the Cowboys. Rabbitohs, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Ebony Pryor for the Tigers. Patrick Carrigan, parallel for the Broncos. Sword and Shield team for the Roosters. Jermaine Hopgood, parallel for the Eels. Women's NRL, Ella Costa for the Dragons. Hammer Fido, parallel for the Dolphins. Showcase Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. Jackson Hastings, parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Gordon Tong for Manly. Zach Lomax, parallel for the Dragons. And that's the end of another box. Rising Stars, Brendan Bakura for the Broncos. Titans, parallel checklist. Season to remember, Kieran Foran for the Titans. Murray Talagi, parallel from Cowboys. Showcase, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Cameron McInnes, parallel for the Sharks. Taryn Aiken, Women's NRL for the Roosters. Cody Walker, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Season to remember, Mia Wood for the Roosters. Tohu Harris parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Tiana Smith for the Cowboys. Selwyn Cobbo parallel for the Broncos. Rising Stars, Connor Mulhayson for the Dragons. Dan Gagai parallel for the Knights. Joseph Tarpanay, World in League for the Raiders. Valance to Ware, parallel for the Dolphins. Gold parallel, Hannah Southwell for the Knights. Number 45. Greg Marzu, parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. Ruben Cotter, parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Hopper Wate for the Roosters. Manly parallel checklist. World in League, Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Cameron Murray parallel for the Rabbitohs. Season to remember, Mahalia Murphy for the Eels. Green Buller parallel for the Tigers. Season to remember, Dominic Young for the Knights. Adam Reynolds parallel for the Broncos. Rising Stars, Brendan Hands for the Eels. Jeremy Marshall King parallel for the Dolphins. Club Heroes, Dean Madison for Manly. Blake Brayley parallel for the Sharks. Jacob Saifiti, World in League for the Knights. Knights parallel checklist. Dalian Predictor. Number 23 for the Mans and the Cowboys. Wade Egan parallel for the Warriors. Season to remember, Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Sebastian Chris parallel for the Raiders. Gold parallel, Isaac Tago for Panthers, number 12. David Coates parallel for Storm. Rising Stars, Alfiana Campiera for the Titans, Jack Bird parallel for Dragons. Rising Stars, Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Jared Hargraves parallel for the Roosters. Club Heroes, Atta Marotta for the Raiders. Micah Sivo parallel for the Eels. World in League, Justin Olam for Storm. Jerome Luai parallel for Panthers. Sword and Shield, Clint Gufferson for the Eels. Max King parallel for the Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Stefano Utkamanu parallel for the Tigers. Women's NRL, Taylor Preston for the Sharks. Ben Jabojevich parallel for Manly. Rising Stars, Ebony Pryor for the Tigers. Josh Papali'i parallel for Raiders. World in League, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Victor Radley parallel for the Roosters. Season to remember, Dallin Martin Zalesniak for the Warriors. Christian Welsh parallel for the Storm. Sword and Shield, Jake Jabojevich for Manly. Blake Laurie parallel for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Gordon Tong for Manly. Tamir Martin parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Mason Teague for the Dolphins. Eels parallel checklist. Women's NRL, Shaylee Bent for the Titans. Jacob Preston parallel for the Bulldogs. Sword and Shield team for the Dragons. Isaiah Yeo parallel for Panthers. Showcase, Tolatoa Koala for Manly. Alfiana Campiera parallel for Titans. Rising Stars, Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Will Warbrick parallel for Storm. Showcase Bunty Afoa for the Warriors. Payne Haas parallel for the Broncos. Season to remember, Lachlan Ilias for the Rabbitohs. Ben Hunt parallel for the Dragons. Women's NRL, Kira Dibb for the Cowboys. Bryce Cartwright parallel for the Eels. Season to remember, Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Campbell Graham parallel for the Rabbitohs. Rising Stars, Dream Buller for the Tigers. Reed Marnie parallel for the Bulldogs. Rising Stars for the Cowboys. Cowboys parallel checklist. World in League, Sarah for the Tigers. Alexander Brimson parallel for the Titans. Gold parallel, Tara McGrath for the Dragons, number 143. Jason Taumalolo parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Ella Costa for the Dragons. Zach Lomax parallel for the Dragons. Season to remember, Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. Jesse Bromwich parallel for Dolphins. World in League, Isaac Alou for the Titans. Jermaine Hopgood parallel for the Eels. Season to remember, Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Toby Sexton parallel for the Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Big Tino parallel for the Titans. Club hero Sean Johnson for the Warriors. Katoni Staggs parallel for the Broncos. World in League, Hamoli Olaka'atu parallel for Manly. Scott Drinkwater parallel for Cowboys. Rising Stars, Jada Taylor for the Sharks. Latrell Mitchell parallel for the Rabbitohs. Retirements, Josh Hodgson for the Eels. Rabbitohs Parallel Checklist. Rising Stars Terrell May for the Roosters. Renato Mulitalo parallel for the Sharks. World in League, Micah Sivo for the Eels. Sean Johnson parallel for the Warriors. Season to remember, Meli Hafunga for the Broncos. Adam Dewey parallel for the Tigers. Gold parallel, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Number 55. Parallel, Hamoli Olaka'atu for Manly. Women's NRL, Racine McGregor for the Dragons. Bradman Best parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Benjamin Lovett for the Rabbitohs. Panthers parallel checklist. Club Heroes, Clint Gufferson for the Eels. Luke Keary parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Dean Madison for Manly. Isaiah Katoa parallel for the Dolphins. Sword and Shield, Damien Cook for the Rabbitohs. Jordan Rapiner parallel for the Raiders. Rising Stars, Ronald Volkman for the Warriors. John Bateman parallel for the Tigers. Season to remember, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Tally Cherry Evans parallel for Manly. World in League, Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Brighton Nakora parallel for the Sharks. Sword and Shield, James Tedesco for the Roosters. Liam Martin parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Trey Mooney for the Raiders. Daniel Tupou parallel for the Roosters. Sword and Shield team for Manly. Warriors parallel checklist. Women's NRL, Haley Maddock for the Broncos. Corey Horsburgh parallel for the Raiders. Showcase David Clemmer for the Tigers. Harry Grant parallel for Storm. Rising Stars, Ruby Ellis for the Eels. and Phoenix Crossland parallel for the Knights. Another box done. Rising Stars, Keanu Kinney for the Titans. Toltor Koala, parallel for Manly. Club Heroes, Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Tommy Dearden, parallel for the Cowboys. Season to remember, Jamie Chapman for the Titans. Tabita Totola, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Women's NRL, Madison Bartlett for the Raiders. Brian Tyler, parallel for Panthers. Showcase, Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Brendan Smith, parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Blake Moser for the Broncos. Raiders parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Alexis for the Dragons. Ezra Mam, parallel for the Broncos. World in League, CSF Talakai for the Sharks. Nelson Asafa Solomona, parallel for Storm. Rising Stars, Peter Holler for the Raiders. Philip Semi, parallel for the Titans. Season to remember, Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Tyrell Sloan, parallel for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Jonah Pezzett for the Storm. Junior Paulo, parallel for the Eels. Sword and Shield team for the Knights. Felice Kafusi, parallel for the Dolphins. World in League, Georgia Roach for the Knights. Daniel Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. Sword and Shield, Big Tino for the Titans. Junior Tupo, parallel for the Tigers. Rising Stars, Kayla Romniak for the Knights. Chance Nico Clockstad, parallel for the Warriors. World in League, parallel, Katoni Stags for the Broncos. Paloma Kickout, parallel for the Bulldogs. Authentic Initials, Thomas Burgess for the Rabbitohs, number 202. Kieran Foran, parallel for the Titans. Season to remember, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Nico Hines, parallel for the Sharks. Gold parallel, Jared Hargraves for the Roosters, number 23. William Kennedy, parallel for the Sharks. Season to remember, Emma Tony Gatto for the Sharks. Dave Feeder, parallel for the Titans. Reid Marnie, showcase for the Bulldogs. Reece Robson, parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Valence to wear for the Dolphins. Tigers, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Atessa Poole for the Roosters. Matt Burton, parallel for the Bulldogs. Shannon Mato, Club Heroes for the Titans. Jake Trbojevic, parallel for Manly. Sword and Shield, Reece Welsh for the Broncos. Dylan Edwards, parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Tyrone Munro for the Rabbitohs. Jai Arrow, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Women's NRL, Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. Kurt Capewell, parallel for the Broncos. Rising Stars, Andy Robinson for the Sharks. James Tedesco, parallel for the Roosters. Season to remember, Jaden Ockenball for the Bulldogs. Matthew Tomoko, parallel for the Raiders. World in League, Shael Robbins for the Raiders. Tom Gilbert, parallel for the Dolphins. Women's NRL, Jamie Chapman for the Titans. Cameron Munster, parallel for the Storm. Rising Stars, Arthur Stephen for the Eels. Jaden Sewer, parallel for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Junior Tupou for the Tigers. Kalen Ponga, parallel for the Knights. World in League, Lachlan Elias for the Rabbitohs. Clint Gufferson parallel for the Eels. Gold parallel, Emma Tony Gutho for the Sharks, number 26. Bulldogs parallel checklist. Last page for the box. Season to remember, Jackson Paulo for the Roosters. Jackson Ford parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Anessa Biddle for the Sharks. Storm parallel checklist. Women's NRL, Pauline Roosevelt for the Tigers. Mikhail Ravalawa parallel for the Dragons. Sword and Shield, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Hudson Young parallel for the Raiders. Showcase Dylan Edwards for the Panthers. Regan Campbell Gillard parallel for the Eels. Club Heroes Tiana Penatani for the Sharks. Jacob Saifiti parallel for the Knights. Season to remember, Mackenzie Wiki for the Raiders. Dallin Watine Zalesniak parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Cassie Hiku for the Eels. Addo Carr parallel for the Bulldogs. World in League, Tyler Wong for the Dragons. Jaden Campbell parallel for the Titans. Rising Stars, Carl for the Bulldogs. Jermaine Isako parallel for the Dolphins. Rising Stars, Eliza Salata for the Tigers. CSF Italikai parallel for the Sharks. Sword and Shield team for the Tigers. Sean Bloor parallel for the Tigers. Season to remember, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Jeremiah Nanai parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Mona Lisa Soliola for the Raiders. Alex Johnson, parallel for the Rabbitohs. World in League, Brendan Bakura for the Broncos. Tommy Turbo, parallel for Manly. Rising Stars, Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins. James Fisher-Harris, parallel for Panthers. World in League, Elsie Albert, parallel for the Eels. Reece Walsh, parallel for the Broncos. Number 92, Broncos NRL W predictor. Dolphins parallel checklist. Season to remember, Luke Brook for the Tigers. Lindsay Collins, parallel for the Roosters. Season to remember, Nick Meaney for Storm. Nathan Cleary, parallel for Panthers. Season to remember, Delhi Cherry Evans for Manly. Hammer Fido, parallel for the Dolphins. Gold parallel, Jesse Bromwich for Dolphins. Number 24. Jerry Manu, parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Francesca Goldthorpe for the Cowboys. Joseph Tarpanay, parallel for the Raiders. Club Heroes, Jareem Buller for the Tigers. Nick Meaney, parallel for the Storm. Showcase, Renato Mulatalo for the Sharks. Jackson Hastings, parallel for the Knights. Sword and Shield, Isaiah Papali'i for the Tigers. Dragons, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Sua Wong for the Roosters. Ryan Madison, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Tom Jenkins for Panthers. Patrick Carrigan, parallel for the Broncos. Rising Stars, Tom Weaver for Titans. Adam Fanua-Blake, parallel for the Warriors. Season to remember, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Jacob Carraz, parallel for Bulldogs. Women's NRL, Hannah Southwell for the Knights. Unlucky Fodawaka parallel for the Titans. Rising Stars, Tallis Duncan for the Rabbitohs. Chad Townsend parallel for the Cowboys. Women's NRL, Elsie Albert for the Eels. Sharks parallel checklist. World in League, Maya Hill Moana for the Roosters. David Clemmer parallel for the Tigers. World in League, Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Damien Cook parallel for the Rabbitohs. 2 packets left in the box. In the box. 2 boxes left in the case after this. Kasi Hiku, gold parallel for the Eels, number 142. Broncos parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Destiny Abril for the Broncos, and Ruben Garrick parallel for Manly. Alright, 2 boxes left in the case, plus the priority box. Let's keep going. Season to remember, Matthew Feagai for the Dragons. Clint Gufferson parallel for the Eels. Sword and Shield, Jack DeBellin for the Dragons. Bulldogs parallel checklist. Retirement, Renee Target for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Jack Howarth for Storm. Tigers parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Blake Wilson for the Bulldogs. Philip Semi parallel for the Titans. Women's parallel, Jasmine Peters for the Cowboys. Tommy Duden parallel for the Cowboys. Club Heroes, Mariah Denman for the Broncos. Jake Trbojevic parallel for Manly. Season to remember, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Dylan Edwards parallel for Panthers. Showcase, Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. Tavita Totola parallel for the Rabbitohs. Rising Stars, Talon de Silva for the Tigers. Ezra Mann, parallel for the Broncos. World in League, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Blaise Kafusi, parallel for Dolphins. Rising Stars, Zach Labert for the Cowboys. James Tedesco, parallel for the Roosters. Season to remember, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Dane Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Thomas Hazelton for the Sharks. Chance Nico Klokstad, parallel for the Warriors. Sword and Shield team for Panthers. Matthew Tomoko, parallel for the Raiders. Shante Aratu, World in League for the Titans. World in League parallel. Nico Hines, parallel for the Sharks. Running Machines, Tamika Upton for the Knights, number 28. Junior Tupou, parallel for the Tigers. World in League, Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Cameron Munster, parallel for the Storm. Rising Stars, Brendan Smith for the Roosters. Jaden Stewart, parallel for the Dragons. Gold parallel, Reuben Cotter for the Cowboys. Number 38. Oops. Mitchell Moses, parallel for the Eels. Season to remember, Selwyn Cobbo for the Broncos. Hapasai Coruscant, parallel for the Tigers. Group card, our second group card, so that'll be randomised as well. Lachlan Croker, parallel for Manly. Rising Stars, Thomas Cant for the Knights. Matt Burton, parallel for the Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Ali for the Warriors. Jesse Ramian, parallel for the Sharks. Our heroes, Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Dave Feeder, parallel for Titans. Rising Stars, Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Isaac Tago, parallel for Panthers. Women's NRL, Mackenzie Wiki for the Raiders. Roosters parallel checklist. Sword and Shield, Max King for the Bulldogs. Reece Robson parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Shante Aratu for the Titans. Jai Arrow parallel for the Rabbitohs. Season to remember, Young Aiken for the Dolphins. Kurt Capewell parallel for the Broncos. Welding League, Serena for the Sharks. Jamal Fogarty parallel for the Raiders. Women's NRL, Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Tom Gilbert parallel for the Dolphins. We got 5th last packet for the box. Rising Stars, Jada Ferguson for the Broncos. Callum Ponga parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Toby Kelson for the Dragons. Jerome Hughes parallel for Storm. Welding League, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Jackson Ford parallel for the Warriors. 2 packets left for the box. Gold parallel, Taryn Aiken for the Roosters, number 80. William Kennedy parallel for the Sharks. Season to remember, Tyrone Munro for the Rabbitohs. And Jack DeBellin parallel for the Dragons. Alright, give me a second, guys. I will be back in a sec. Just quick toilet break. Alright, we're back. Sorry about that. 2 boxes left to go, guys. Not much longer. Alright, last box from the case. Before I do that, I'm going to sleeve those last couple of cards that we've got after I ran out. So once again, 80, Ruben Cotter, number 38. Season to remember, Xavier Coates to Storm. Isaiah Yo, parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Rumour Greek for the Eels. Titans, parallel checklist. Women's NRL, Nevada George for the Tigers. Victor Radley, parallel for the Roosters. Reece Welsh, showcase for the Broncos. Max King, parallel for the Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Ryan Rivet for the Knights. Big Papa, parallel for the Raiders. Season to remember, Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons. Micah Sivo, parallel for the Eels. World in League, Meli Hafunga for the Broncos. Christian Welsh, parallel for the Storm. Rising Stars, Thomas Hazelton for the Sharks. Jack Bird, parallel for the Dragons. Keezy at gold parallel for the Tigers, number 9. Nice low one. There we go. Tigers still hidden. Going strong. Blake Laurie, parallel for the Dragons. Let's go, Bulldogs. Let's go. Season to remember, Valentine Holmes for the Cowboys. Alifiana Campiera for the Titans. Rising Stars, Robert Derby for the Cowboys. Isaac Tago, parallel for Panthers. Club Heroes, Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins. Jacob Preston, parallel for the Bulldogs. Jerome Hughes, World in League for Storm. Roosters, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Sanua Taruva for Panthers. Eels, parallel checklist. Season to remember, episode Coruscant for the Tigers. Jamal Fogarty, parallel for the Raiders. Rising Stars, Raymond Vega for Manly. Jerome Hughes, parallel for the Storm. World in League, Racine McGregor for the Dragons. World in League parallel, Jack DeBellin, parallel for the Dragons. Retirement, Josh Reynolds for the Bulldogs. Mitchell Moses, parallel for the Eels. Season to remember, Ben Voyage for Manly. Galance to wear, parallel for Dolphins. Clint Gutherson, gold parallel for the Eels, number 11. Greg Marshew, parallel for the Knights. Rising Stars, Tane for the Warriors. Selwyn Cobbo, parallel for the Broncos. Rising Stars, Holly Dodd for the Raiders. Tamir Martin, parallel for the Warriors. Semi Valemi, World in League for the Cowboys. Cody Walker, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Club Heroes, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Blake Brayley, parallel for the Sharks. Sword and Shield, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Dream Buller, parallel for the Tigers. Caitlin Johnston, Women's NRL for the Knights. Murray Talagi, parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Ryan Couchman for the Dragons. Manly, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Jeremy Marshall King, parallel for the Dolphins. World in League, Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons. Adam Reynolds, parallel for the Broncos. Season to remember, Jamal Fogarty for the Raiders. Knights, parallel checklist. Sword and Shield, Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. Wade Egan, parallel for the Warriors. Sword and Shield team for the Cowboys. Cameron Murray parallel for the Rabbitohs. Got 4 packets left in the last box of the case. Rising Stars, Will Warbrick for Storm. Jesse Ramian parallel for the Sharks. Women's NRL, Anessa Biddle for the Sharks. Apasai Coruscant parallel for the Tigers. Rising Stars, Sienna Lefippo for the Titans. Ruben Cotter parallel for the Cowboys. Alright, last packet of the case. Showcase Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. And Lachlan Croker parallel for Manly. Alright, as I said, that was the last box out of the case. Rising Stars, Mona Lisa Soliola for the Raiders. Joseph Tarpanay parallel for the Raiders. Season to remember, Mia Wood for the Roosters. Nick Meaney parallel for the Storm. Showcase Jerome Hughes for the Storm. Dragons parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Connor Mulhayson for the Dragons. Ryan Madison parallel for the Eels. Ivania Polite, Women's NRL for the Titans. Jacob Carraz parallel for the Bulldogs. Gold parallel, Leanne Tafuga for the Tigers, number 141. Hudson Young parallel for the Raiders. World in League, Shael Retty for the Raiders. Mawaki Fotowaka parallel for the Titans. Rising Stars, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Chad Townsend parallel for the Cowboys. Season to remember, Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Damien Cook parallel for the Rabbitohs. Gold parallel Storm checklist number 30. Broncos parallel checklist. World in League, Lachlan Ilias for the Rabbitohs. Lindsay Collins, parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Jermaine Isako, parallel for the Dolphins. And our first priority, Club Hero, number 28, Simona Torfa for the Raiders. Jacob Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. Sword and Shield, Harry Grant for the Storm. Dallin Martin Zalesniak, parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Brendan Pecura for the Broncos. James Fisher-Harris, parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Alafiana Khan-Piera for Titans. Sifa Talakai, parallel for Sharks. Season to remember, Kieran Foran for the Titans. Sean Ball, parallel for Tigers. Samaima Taufa, Women's NRL for the Raiders. Tommy Turbo, parallel for Manly. Second Club Heroes, number 23, Dally Cherry Evans. Mikhail Ravalawa, parallel for the Dragons. Season to remember, Mahalia Murphy for the Eels. Regan Campbell-Gillard, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Gordon Tong for Manly. Addo Carr, parallel for the Bulldogs. Sword and Shield priority, number 41 for the Dragons. Jaden Campbell, parallel for the Titans. Georgia Roach, World in League for the Knights. Jeremiah Nanai, parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Tiana Smith for the Cowboys. Storm, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Hopewate for the Roosters. Alex Johnston, parallel for the Rabbitohs. Season to remember, Dallin Martin Zalesniak for the Warriors. Reece Walsh, parallel for the Broncos. Sword and Shield, Reece Robson for the Cowboys. Dolphins, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Ebony Pryor for the Tigers. Dane Gagai parallel for the Knights. Women's NRL, Tara West for the Dragons. Tohu Harris parallel for the Warriors. Showcase Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. Cameron McInnes parallel for the Sharks. Rising Stars, Mason Teague for the Dolphins. Stefano Utkamanu parallel for the Tigers. 5 packets left. Out in league, see Sifa Talakai for the Sharks. Ben Javovic parallel for Manly. Season to remember, Dominic Young for the Knights. Jerome Luai parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. Jared Rare-Hargraves parallel for Roosters. And our World in League parallel number 11, Jason Taumalolo. Sebastian Chris parallel for the Raiders. And our last packet, fingers crossed, last but not least, here we go. Hey, here we go. Not bad. Number 29 in the women's Dally M Predictor. Xavier Coates parallel for the Storm to finish us off. There we go. Last but not least, come through. Alright. Well, we have our 2 group cards to randomise. Cameras over here. And our $100 bonus gift card. So I'm going to switch over the screens. We'll get our 2 group cards done first. Alright, let's just copy that, make it nice and easy. Number 1, number 2, lucky last, number 3, Dean Mick with the Roosters. Alright, let's reset. There we go, everyone loaded in again. Number 1, number 2, and lucky last, number 3, Darren with the Tigers. Alright, and for the final time, this time for the $100 bonus gift card, number 1, number 2, and lucky last, number 3, Darren with Manly. Congratulations. Alright guys, thank you for joining us, but that's it, that's all. Hope you had a ball, and we'll see you next time.